there, welcome to Film Scene 21. My name's Simon and I'm here to bring you real 21st century reviews of film and great television and the best ways we can enjoy that through home media. Today on Film Scene 21 we have a couple of firsts. It will be the first review of a full 4K UHD release and the other, well, we'll see later on what that might be. Today's a very special release. We're going to be looking at Studio Canal's 4K UHD release of 1980's The Elephant Man. We're going to talk about it now. Before we crack on with the review of The Elephant Man, if you've got any questions or comments, please leave those down below. It'd be great to hear from you. And if you enjoy it, please leave a like. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. There's already some other videos you can have a look at I've done before. And also down in the description you will find the details for my Twitter and Instagram account. It'd be great to touch base with you there. And also purchase links for any of the releases that I mentioned today. Also, just to mention about spoilers, any review will contain an element of spoiler for a film. The only way to avoid spoilers is to know nothing about it before you start watching it. But I always try and avoid any major spoilers for any plots or anything that go on through the film. But I just wanted you to know ahead of time. So let's talk about The Elephant Man. The screenplay was written by Christopher DeVore and Eric Berggren and was based on two sources, Frederick Treves' The Elephant Man and Other Reminiscences, and Ashley Montague's The Elephant Man, A Study in Human Dignity. The script was then further adapted by the director David Lynch in collaboration with DeVore and Berggren. The story is about someone who is an attraction at a travelling Victorian freak show. Someone who has a deformity that has labelled them as the Elephant Man. News of this has reached Dr. Frederick Treves, who asks the man's proprietor, Mr. Bites, to arrange a private viewing. At this first meeting, the Doctor is captivated by this specimen of humanity, a man who's actually called John Merrick, and he makes an arrangement with Mr. Bites for Merrick to accompany him to the London hospital. Treves is a revered surgeon and expert in anatomy, and he presents this fascinating and unique subject to an audience of peers where he details the anomalies of Merrick's condition. We follow the story as Merrick deals with his new surroundings, the reactions of different people, all while Dr. Treves slowly discovers the person behind the disfigurement. Okay, let's look at the main players in The Elephant Man. You have John Hurt, who plays the title character, also known as John Merrick. You may have seen him before in films such as 1984 and Scandal, but you will never have seen him like this before. He is unrecognisable. And I won't show you any pictures of him because I believe it would betray the creative intent of the filmmakers, and the reveal of John Merrick is something key to the storyline. Then you have Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Frederick Treves. You would have seen him in many films before, I'm sure, including The Remains of the Day, Silence of the Lambs, and more recently winning another Best Actor Oscar in The Father. Then we have Anne Bancroft. She plays a character called Mrs. Kendall, and she has also been seen in films such as 84 Charing Cross Road, The Miracle Worker, for which she won a Best Actress Oscar, and her unforgettable turn in The Graduate. Then we have John Gielgud, who plays Mr. Cargon, the hospital's governor. He's been in many films before. You may remember him from films such as Gandhi and Chariots of Fire, and also the 1981 film Arthur, for which the Academy honoured him with a Best Supporting Actor Oscar. Then in some supporting but absolutely key roles to this story, we have Wendy Hiller, who plays Mrs. Motherhead. She is like the head matron of the hospital. You also have Freddie Jones as Mr. Bites, the owner of John Merrick, along with some other unfortunate souls. Michael Elphick plays Jim, the conniving night porter, and Hannah Gordon plays Mrs. Anne Treves, the doctor's wife. The Elephant Man was shot on location in London, including areas such as Broadgate, Hackney, Lambeth, Lower Clapton and Westminster, along with some shooting taking place at Shepperton Studios and Lee International Studios at Wembley. So how did I get to see The Elephant Man? Well, I used this Studio Canal Vintage Classics Collector's Edition of The Elephant Man on 4K UHD. It's a lovely package, this gatefold with pop-up sleeve. I'll show you that in a minute. And it's got this wonderful artwork on the front from the film. It's got this very grainy, almost like brushstrokes image of it, which is very evocative and very appropriate for the film. For those that are interested, I'll give you a close-up on the back of the sleeve. That way you can do a freeze frame to get any details you want off of that. I'll omit those pictures at the top because they show some images of Mr. Merrick. And the spine, we have the year of release 1980, Studio Canal, the Elephant Man, Ultra HD, and the UK ratings logo. So looking inside this sleeve, there's kind of a flap at the front, and if you open it, it's connected by sort of like Velcro. But if you open that, it has like this pop-up image of a cathedral, like a diorama. And for anyone who's not seen the film, you think that's kind of strange. But if you have seen the film, it's actually really touching, so it's very apt. And inside the outer sleeve, there is a holder for the discs. And if I slide that out, there we go. We have Anthony Hopkins there playing Dr. Treves. I won't show you the back because it has a picture of John Merrick, and I can't show you the inside either because that has a picture of John Merrick too. Something I said I didn't want to show you in this review, but I will show you the inside with the discs all opened out, which doesn't reveal anything that you shouldn't be seeing. So here we have a holder that holds a couple of items which I'll show you in a minute. Picture of Anne Bancroft on the 4K UHD disc, and then we have Anthony Hopkins on the Blu-ray version, and then we've got John Gielgud on the extra features disc, which is a Blu-ray. So as I mentioned, in that pocket we have two items. One is a set of art cards. There's 5 there, I believe. I won't show you those because again they have spoilery images on them. And one is this book, which again is very nice. It echoes the design on the front of the sleeve. The back is just plain, but it's 64 pages. I'll do a quick flip without showing you too much, but it's absolutely amazing. It's got loads of images, loads of detail. There's stuff in here all about the film, obviously all about John Merrick himself, the hospital as well, and Dr. Treves, and it's a great read. Images of the director as well, working on set, and all sorts of things. So, and it's all in black and white. We'll talk about that later. So that's the release overview that I enjoyed this film on, and we'll cover off the special features a bit later, but I'd like to talk to you a bit more about how I found the experience of watching this film. This is the section is more likely to contain anything that some may consider spoilers, so if that's you, please feel free to skip to the next section. From the moment it started, the film drew me in. The way it blends from striking imagery to the character piece it becomes is intoxicating. I could sense the mood or the history of each person we come across. For instance, the pain or anguish initially felt by John Merrick and then by those empathetic souls who meet him. Equally profound is the frustration of a man like Bites, or the throwaway attitude of people that take advantage of John. It brings into question social propriety and the tendency to pass judgment on others based purely on initial impressions or outward appearance. It also shows us how important it is to get to know someone firsthand rather than basing our feelings on our own preconceptions or how the way someone is presented to us by others. The script is so well written. All the characters have their moments and their growth or character arcs are really well executed. There are lots of unexpected turns in the story too, but it all seems really organic and everything seems to fit in just the right place. I was most surprised at how it made me feel. I mean, despair for how we humans are capable of treating each other, but also an equal amount of optimism and how strength of character, despite circumstance and persecution, can really shine through and become an inspiration. That's what John Merrick's story shows us, and with great dignity. The actors' performances for The Elephant Man are first rate. I congratulate and I'm in awe of the performance given by John Hurt for the portrayal of John Merrick. I mean, to be able to express such emotion through the unwieldy makeup and prosthetics is incredible. And I understand it was a case of completely adopting the physicality of the character, a way of walking, a way of sitting, a way of speaking, a way of moving. It's awe-inspiring. And then we have Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Treves, an understated performance, but with elements of tenderness, compassion, determination. At times he turns the mirror in on himself to question his own motives in such a way that it enables us to sort of empathise with him, but also become complicit in his actions. John Gielgud as Cargon and Wendy Hiller as Mrs. Motherhead are perfectly cast as hospital governor and head matron respectively. They have such reverence to the piece and offer two superb examples of how somebody's initial reaction can mellow over time. Anne Bancroft brings such poise, providing a nicely delicate performance as Mrs. Kendall. Hannah Gordon as Anne Treves, the doctor's wife, is heartbreakingly sweet, especially during her first meeting with John. Mr. Bites is brought to us by Freddie Jones, convincingly intimidating and brutal at times. And Michael Elphick as Jim, the night porter. He's got a very alarmingly cavalier approach to the situation, and he convinces with his boorish or misguided at best behaviour. Let's talk about the look and the feel of the film. Once cinematographer Freddie Francis was on board, he and director David Lynch took the decision to shoot on black and white 35mm film, not, as was the option then, to shoot in colour and then convert to monochrome in post-production. It was believed that the black and white imagery would create a more hauntingly immersive experience and be more evocative of the era and create a greater focus on the subject matter. So from that point forward, it decided to shoot nothing in colour. Even the on-set photographer, Frank Connor, shot only in black and white so as to retain the mystery of the period. The imagery utilised by David Lynch is incredible. The decor of the interiors is perfectly apt for the time, as are the costumes and clothing. The exterior scenes, be that day or night, are beautifully realised on real locations around London, heavily echoing the industrial age of the time, and the use of smoke and lighting expertly reveal as much as is needed. In addition to this, there are some inserts of distorted and warped photography, providing visual representations of torment or anguish, which are unsettlingly disturbing, but spellbindingly striking. I found myself transfixed and intrigued by the nature of the direction, the shot choices, and the design of the film. It's important to note that along with writing and directing, David Lynch provided the sound design and the musical direction. On that note, the score was composed and conducted by John Morris and performed by the National Philharmonic Orchestra. The music is beautifully apt. It uses the orchestral arrangements that build to a appropriately dramatic crescendo, along with some vaudevillian hurdy-gurdy style pieces that accent the more ominously chilling sequences. It really can be at sometimes a hauntingly beautiful accompaniment to the visuals. David Lynch also elects to use Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings for one key scene, which is extremely haunting. And although not part of the film's score per se, it suitably complements the emotive scene that it's used for. Not only are our ears treated to the excellent music cues, but the ambient sounds of the environment, along with the disquieting industrial noises mixed in with elements of animalistic calls, really creates the world within the story that completely envelops you. It's the perfect marriage of sound and vision. Now, here's some bits and pieces that I found out about the Elephant Man. Following on from the death of the real Joseph John Merrick, parts of his body were preserved for medical science to study. Some of his organs were kept in jars, and there were casts taken of his head, an arm and a foot. Unfortunately, the organs were destroyed during the raids in World War II, but the casts did survive. The makeup for John Hurt, who plays John Merrick in the film, were actually designed from those casts. Actor-director Mel Brooks was the executive producer for the film, and as he was most commonly known for producing comedies at the time, he deliberately left his name off the credits, just so audiences wouldn't hold any ill-conceived preconceptions about the tone of the film. The Elephant Man received 8 Academy Award nominations and was honoured with none. It lost out to films such as Ordinary People, Tess, Fame and Raging Bull. There was also an outcry that it wasn't going to receive an award for the makeup effects. There was no award for this at the time, and despite a letter of protest going to the Academy, they still refused. However, rather belatedly, the category for Best Makeup was introduced the following year. So getting back to the release that I saw, The Elephant Man, this is the Studio Canal one I mentioned earlier. Let's talk about the image, the sound and special features as well that are available. A 4K restoration using the original camera negative and supervised by David Lynch was actually done for the 40th anniversary of the film, and it's that 4K restoration is presented here, but on a native 4K ultra high definition disc. The image is stunning, with a slight but natural film grain, which really complements the black and white photography extremely well. And there are a couple of seconds in a couple of spots where the film grain is a little noisy, that's all. And also it's presented here in its original 2.35:1 aspect ratio. It feels both cinematic and intimate in equal measure, and really suits the story elements to a T, and it's an absolute visual treat. A not inconsiderable factor in the impact of the visuals is the hidden element, the sound. And here we have an English DTS HD 2.0 stereo track, also available in French and German variants. Originally released to theatres in stereo, it's a phenomenally sounding track and improves on the previously released Blu-ray. I was astounded about how enveloping the soundstage was. In fact, I have to admit, I didn't even check to see what sound format was provided beforehand. It wasn't until I was immersed in it that I thought to check, and it is amazing. Now, taking a look at what's actually featured on the discs in this set, there are 3 in all. The first disc features the film itself in its full 4K resolution. The second disc houses it in the standard 1080p high definition format, but still using the 4K restoration print. There are also 2 featurettes. One from 2019 called Photographing the Elephant Man, and that features an interview with stills photographer Frank Connor. Runs for about 25 minutes. It's absolutely fascinating, the stories he's got to tell from being on set and dealing with David Lynch and the makeup artist Chris Tucker, etc. And then you have a Q&A with producer Jonathan Sanger from the BFI screening in 2018. That runs for about 24 minutes. The third disc houses the bulk of the special features. Here we have 2 interviews from 2008, one with David Lynch himself, which runs for about 24 minutes, and then a 20-minute interview with the actor John Hurt, who plays John Merrick. Following on from this is a featurette called The Air is on Fire. David Lynch exposes at the Cartier Foundation, where he presents some artwork of his, and it's about 14 minutes. Then there is another sort of documentary called Joseph Merrick, The Real Elephant Man, and this lasts for about 19 minutes, as does another interview with David Lynch, this time with director Mike Figgis. That's from 2006, and that takes place in like a hotel corridor, it seems, so it's quite an interesting location for it, but very interesting what they talk about, you know, different aspects of filmmaking and that sort of thing, techniques. And also, to round things off, there is another documentary called The Terrible Elephant Man Revealed, which lasts for half an hour. Also, you have a stills gallery, and don't forget what was included in the package, the 5 art cards, and that 64-page book was just lovely and amazing. Let's look at alternate versions that are available for this release. The Studio Canal 40th anniversary release comes in 3 flavours. This collector's edition, where you get the 3 discs, the book, the art cards and the special packaging, that retailed around £35 when it came out. They also released a steelbook version, which retailed around the £25 mark, and also there's a standard Blu-ray packaging, which usually came with a slipcase, for around the £20 mark. Do note that, however, although the 4K disc is region free, the 2 Blu-rays that accompany it are locked to region B. So, and they will also be the discs that come in the 2-disc Blu-ray package that is also available. Alternatively, and especially if you're restricted to playing Region A discs, there is a Criterion Collection release, which, although it loses the David Lynch art exhibition and stills gallery, it does still have that 4K restoration on a standard Blu-ray, in addition to these other features. The Room to Dream audiobook reading by David Lynch and co-author Christine McKenna, that's nearly 70 minutes long. Also an audio interview with David Lynch from the American Film Institute seminar in 1981, that runs for about 50 minutes. There's also an interview with John Hurt from 1980 from the Granada TV series in the UK called Clapperboard that runs for 11 minutes. There's another interview with makeup artist Christopher Tucker and John Hurt, and this time it's an excerpt from a documentary called Skin Tricks from Hetty Crapples, and that's about 13 minutes long. And then finally you have a theatrical trailer and also some radio spots, and this one comes with a 36-page booklet. So although it's not the full 4K experience, it's still very good and it's got some nice additional supplements there too. But do remember that is Region A, so you'll need a Region A Blu-ray player or a multi-region player to be able to play that one. Okay, so why would you go for this release? Well, basically, if you're looking for that full-on 4K UHD in all its glory experience, I definitely recommend you go for the 3-disc Studio Canal 4K release. However, if you haven't yet got into the world of 4K, and why haven't you, and you're also restricted to playing Region B discs, then why not go for Studio Canal's 2-disc Blu-ray release? Alternatively, if you've got a Region A machine or multi-region player, then I'd recommend you go for that Criterion edition. I mean, it's also got that 4K restoration on the standard Blu-ray and features some excellent additional supplements. But if you're able to play this 4K disc, it is beautiful, and I recommend, if you can at all possibly manage it, to upgrade your home cinema system so that you can enjoy the 4K experience. I would highly recommend it. So one of my final thoughts on The Elephant Man. I remember first attempting to watch this when I was quite young, probably 11 or 12, recorded onto VHS off the television, and while I was transfixed by those early exchanges, I could not finish watching it. I don't think I was emotionally mature enough at that age to deal with the subject matter. There is a very profound line spoken by John Gielgud's character Carl Gom in the film. He says during a meeting with Dr. Treves, "Can you possibly imagine what kind of life he must have had?" To which Dr. Treves replies, "Yes, I think I can." And Carl Gom retorts, "I don't believe so. No one could possibly imagine it. I don't believe any of us can." Well, what can I say about The Elephant Man? It's disturbing, it's uplifting, it's shocking, it's sweet, and by heck it's emotional. In tears at points and in pieces by the end, but it's certainly inspirational. It's a beautifully crafted film made by people that care and helmed by a true artist. Everyone involved has brought their A game. John Hurt says in one of the interviews actually on this disc, if there's someone who isn't moved at some point in this film, I wouldn't want to know them. See it yourself and let me know. Would you agree? And here we are at the point where I like to give the film a score out of 10. I'm sure you'd be interested to hear what I think this time around. Well, bearing in mind all that I've said, I have the honour to give The Elephant Man the score of 10 out of 10. And that was the other first I was talking about earlier, the first 10 out of 10 for this channel. Well, it was a uniquely realised and genuine thought-provoking film and a feast for the senses. And it also has that emotionally charged core running through every frame. So that's the end of another review from me. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that like button. It really does help me out. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. And if you do, then the magic bell icon will appear. And if you tap that, that way you get notified as soon as possible when the next video drops. Also, please share it with anyone you know. And also, you got any questions or anything you want to tell me, please leave that in the comments below and I will have a look and get back to you. Also, there are those purchase links down in the description, and if you use those, it won't cost you anything extra, but it really will support the channel just in a tiny little way. So I really look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Film Scene 21. My name's Simon. Bye bye for now.